Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So this video is going to be about just 5 of my thoughts about being black in South Korea. Recently the Black Lives Matter movement has been picking up a lot of traction, and even here in Korea, the black expats in Korea have been doing a lot to represent the movement and just kind of educate Koreans about it as well. And I would say in terms of Koreans, there are quite mixed responses. A lot of the Koreans that I know are supportive of the movement. Some Koreans that I've just seen on the internet are obviously not supportive because, yeah. And a lot of this is just general, but a lot of the people who are not supportive, it's for 2 reasons. Some of them say they are supportive, but they don't support violence and protests and all of that. But obviously, like, the media is very centered around, like, for example, if a Korean grocery store is looted, the media is going to be centered on that, and so they're kind of focusing on the wrong things. And so Koreans are also like just not yeah, they just don't get it. And another reason that some of them are not sympathizing with this movement is because they feel like Asians are treated badly in Western countries as well, so they don't see the need to sympathize with the movement because they also get treated badly, which is problematic in its own rights. But yeah, so this video is not necessarily a Black Lives Matter video, but just I feel like it's time to kind of speak about like my experience being a black person in South Korea. I'm not gonna say this is every black person's experience, but just 5 of my just random thoughts about being black. It's not even, they're not even cohesive, or are they linked? Some of them are, but it's just kind of me talking about my experience and what it's been like for me. So number 1, being black in Korea is having to explain yourself all the time. I'm sure this applies to just being a foreigner as well, but I feel like with being black, you have a lot less similarities with Koreans. For example, your hair texture, like white people and Korean people would have different hair texture, like maybe the thickness or whatever, but you know, I don't think Korean people are as curious about white people's hair because it's kind of similar to theirs. Whereas like being black, it's like, the hair is just an example, but it's like I constantly have to explain things that in my regular life in South Africa I would never have to explain to someone. Like, and if I do, it would happen like once in a blue moon. It's not like every day having to explain my very existence. And when they're like, why is it like that? You're like, I don't know, I was born this way, so I can't tell you why it's like that. I just know that it's this way and this is how I deal with it and stuff. I do 1000% believe that you should educate people, and if people are curious about things, I always answer them completely honestly and like in a very supportive way, like supportive of their learning process. And if they have stereotypes and things like that, I mean, I think it's also because my Korean level is like decent enough, but like if they have stereotypes or just false ideas, I usually unteach them and then reteach them things. Like for example, there is the term in Korean that's just really offensive called reggae mori, and reggae mori is like when you have braids or dreadlocks or something, and reggae, like reggae music, and then mori means hair, so it's like reggae hair. And I'm just like, that's very offensive and inaccurate. And just, for example, that's one of the things that I have to unteach a lot of the Korean people around me when I do my hair in braids or something, and be like, there's no such thing as reggae mori. This reggae mori, I said it in like an English accent. These are called braids, those are called dreadlocks. This is how they're done. This is why using the term reggae mori is inaccurate, because reggae is a genre, first of all. And yeah, it's just things like that. I'm all for educating people, and I'm glad that I'm in a position where I get to do that. But some days it's a little bit hard, and you don't necessarily feel like having to explain things that to you are as easy as breathing. Like, one lady asked me why I change my hair so often, isn't it exhausting? And I'm like, well, for the sake of the health of my hair, you know. Like I go between natural and braids, protective styles, and letting it breathe and all of that. And then someone else, this wasn't the same conversation, was just like, oh, are braids good for your hair? Because when Koreans do it, and I'm like, you see, now your problem is that Koreans are doing braids in the first place. You're not supposed to. It's not meant for your hair texture in the first place. And so you think it's really unhealthy and unhygienic and all of these things because you don't know, because when you do it on your hair is going to react differently to it, because the texture is not necessarily aligned for that hairstyle. And so when they're like, oh, it's so unhygienic, you can't wash your hair, oh, it's really bad for your hair, it like breaks your hair, I'm like, your problem is that you're doing things on your hair you should not be doing. Hair is just an example, but just having to explain things that to you have never really thought twice about, it's just the way it is and you're so used to doing it, gets a little bit exhausting. Also, side note, one of my students asked me why I'm so black, like why my skin is so dark, because in Korea pale skin is considered better, and which is weird because a lot of Koreans are not actually pale. Like a lot of them, like it's, I would say there are more tan Koreans than there are pale Koreans. So yeah, but anyway, their beauty standard is that pale skin is better than tanner skin. And so I've had like one student, he was a special needs student though, but regardless, so he doesn't have like a filter. He came up to me and he was like, why is your skin so dark? And I was like, but like a little girl came along who's very good at English, and she kind of told him like, you can't say that, and kind of explained to him why what he was saying was wrong. So I was just like, I didn't have to, and she knows, and he's special needs, so he doesn't have like a filter where he can, like, even if he is curious, he can tell himself, you know, this is not a polite question. So yeah, it's just things like that. The second thing, and kind of tying into number one about being black in Korea, like for example, I mentioned the braids thing, like Koreans doing braids themselves, is watching people appropriate your culture, which is one thing in itself, and then watching people appropriate your culture without any intention or desire to even fully understand it or learn about it. So it's like, I'm gonna do these braids, but I don't understand how they work with actual, like, from how they work within the culture I'm appropriating them from, and I don't understand the significance of them. And for me, it's just a cool fashion thing, but I don't understand the history behind them. And it's not just braids, it's just hair is like the easiest example, but it's just dealing with people who appropriate your culture and be like, oh yeah, I like hip-hop, so I'm hip, and then they dress in like hip-hop fashion and all of that, but maybe they even treat black people badly. Like, I'm not gonna, like, I don't want to say badly, I haven't had any experiences like that, but like, they don't understand the culture, they don't necessarily like black people, they just think that black people have like cool elements about them, and so they want to keep parts of being black and copy them. But for example, when it comes to Black Lives Matters, they're not going to support a black person near them. For example, someone like myself, you come to Korea, you're respectful, you learn everything about the culture, you don't wear like a hanbok unless you understand what the hanbok means, but Koreans sometimes don't return the courtesy. By the way, these are all from my personal experience. And I know that they have happened to a lot of people, but I don't want to say this is a generalization about all Korean people, but just a lot of the time this is what it's like being black in Korea. So there's that. And then on top of that, you get the people who want to, I guess all of this is linked, but you get the people who are like, yes, I love black culture and hip-hop, and they want to educate themselves, or they are educated to an extent, or even if it's wrong, they're trying to learn about, you know, black people and what makes black people great. But then you get that end of people, so I'll come back to them. And then you get people who, with that same complex of like loving black culture, will have all sorts of stereotypes, and maybe they also just have not interacted with a lot of black people, so when they see black people they make a lot of unwarranted comments, and they say a lot of stereotypes like, oh yeah, I think black people are cool, why do you think black people are cool? Well, I mean, like, you know, you guys have really good bodies, you're very athletic. And I'm like, not all black people are athletic. And they're like, yeah, but you guys are like really tall and like, you know, your muscles and all of that. And I'm like, there are black people who are shorter than Korean people. There are black people who are not athletic at all, but just like bookworms. You know, there are, it's not to say that if any random black person and any random Korean person competed in the same sport, the black person would win. Like, you can't assume that. You can say that a lot of really great athletes are black, but you can't say that it's an attribute of black people to be athletic. And so you'll have stereotypes like that. You'll have men who want to make unwarranted comments about your, like, who kind of want to sexualize you because maybe for them the only black women they have encountered are through their TV screens or through YouTube, and it's like Beyonce and Nicki Minaj, and so they'll ask you weird questions like, can you twerk? Just because I'm black doesn't mean I can twerk. I can't twerk. I have no interest or desire in learning how to twerk. So it's just like, you know, why are you making this very sexual comment about me on assumption that I can dance? You know, not all black people can dance. Not all black people can sing. Not all black people are athletic. It's just, they make a lot of these weird comments, or like they'll be like, oh yeah, you know, I love black women because black women have glamorous bodies. They love the word glamorous. It's really odd. And it's just like, not every black woman is gonna have like a Nicki Minaj bum or like, you know, I don't know what. But yeah, it's dealing with weird stereotypes like that kind of affect the way that people treat you, because they also develop these weird expectations of you. Like, she's gonna have a butt like Nicki Minaj and a voice like Beyonce and the athletic ability of like Michael Jordan. Like, no, that's not how this works. Also, back to the other people who are learning and maybe a little bit misinformed, and this is the fourth thing about being black here in Korea, is that sometimes you get like, I don't want to say unwarranted, but you just get like unprecedented maybe, or like just unexpected respect. Like Koreans, some Koreans, because some Koreans still believe that black people are below Koreans, but some Koreans believe that black people are like above Koreans in terms of like physical. And so they have this, some Koreans have this weird respect for black people. It's like, yes, we should all respect each other as humans, but like they'll be like, oh, she's black, so I have to add this level of respect for her, but I don't know her. So they'll call you like Nuna. Nuna is the Korean term for older sister used by men. Or if it's a black man, they'll call him Hyung, which is older brother, but it's like they wouldn't use the same term automatically for a white person. This is just some Koreans, but they do this where they assume that you're really, really good at all of these things that I mentioned in the stereotypes. And so they have this weird level of respect for you, even though I may not be able to sing, I may not be able to jump hoops, I may not be able to run really fast, and yet they'll just put me on this weird pedestal where they have all of these expectations of me, and then just give me this like really weird level of respect that I've done nothing to earn. It's like, yes, you should respect me on a human level, but it's like, you shouldn't respect me because you think I'm some kind of weird superhuman. So that's another thing. You deal with like people on two ends of the spectrum who disrespect you through stereotypes and then who respect you through stereotypes. It's weird. It's really weird. Or another thing that they do is like, maybe they know like one black person like Sam Ochiri. Well, they call him Sam Ochiri. He's this guy from Ghana who came to Korea, and he's like a really famous, I guess, celebrity. But like, yeah, he's really popular here in Korea, and they'll be like, oh, do you know him? Just because I'm African doesn't mean I know Sam Ochiri. Or they'll be like, oh, you must be like him, like your personality must be the same. Who now? Must be like, who's? I don't even know him. I've never met him. So, and then they'll give you like a level of respect, like, oh, you know, I don't know, it's weird. And then I think the fifth random thought I have, I don't know if this video even really makes sense. These are just random things that I think are part of the experience of being black in Korea. It's not things that a lot of people have mentioned in their videos about being black in Korea. This is just kind of my take on it from personal experience. The fifth thing is, being black in Korea, you will have different experiences if you are African and if you are American or from really anywhere else that's kind of Western versus if you're African. You get treated very differently. Like if you're American or European and you're black, you're going to be treated differently to somebody who's black from Africa. I can't explain it. I honestly cannot, but it's just different. I can't explain how you get treated differently, but it's like I will have different experiences to my American friends. Like my American friends and I almost never have the same experiences as being black. Like there's the general ones of like how you get treated by Koreans when they don't know where you're from, but it's like I'm talking about the experiences where they ask you where you're from and you're like, oh, I'm from this place, and they're like, oh, you're not American, you're from Africa. And then they'll say something really weird about Africa. Like if I say I'm South African, the thing that I get a lot is, oh, Nelson Mandela, and I'm like, yeah. You know. But then after that, it's kind of like the interaction changes. I honestly cannot explain it, but all I'm trying to say with this is that if you are speaking to a Korean one-on-one, just don't expect that if you watched a video of an American girl telling you what it's like to be black in Korea, it's going to be exactly like that. Like it will be different depending on where you are. Even then, if you're from like Ghana, where Sam Ochiri is from, and you're from South Africa, the treatment might be different based on what they know about the country. If you are from Canada or you're from the US, the treatment might be different based on what they know about the country. So even if you're black, you can't apply the mentality of like you will be treated the same way across the board. You'll be treated according kind of to the knowledge that person has about your blackness, if that makes sense. I don't think the last point really made sense, but I'm just trying to point out that it's just very different. Your experiences are kind of different if you are American versus from anywhere else. This video wasn't really, I didn't have like a specific intention for this video except to just speak about like some random thoughts I've had about what it's like being black in this country. I obviously stand with the Black Lives Matter movement because I mean duh. But yeah, this wasn't meant to be a Black Lives Matter video, but I think it was an appropriate time to post it. So let me know if you have any questions about what it's like being black in Korea that maybe I didn't bring up or you've heard about in a different video but you want to know like my experience of it. I'm not saying that am I saying that Korea is a country that is racist against black people? No. It's like anywhere you're gonna go, there are gonna be people who like black people, people who don't like black people, people who love black people in a weird way, and then people who love black people in a justified, educated way. So it is just, I guess, case by case. Koreans love saying that. It's case by case. It's who you're talking to. And also, if you watch videos about being black in Korea and people have really negative experiences, please don't write off the entire country based off of one person's experience. I personally have not had a lot of experiences where I felt like being black was a problem or I was being treated badly because I'm black. But you know, that may not be the same case for somebody who lives in like Jeollanam-do, who is an American. You know, it's like I said, it's very case by case. So you know, it's gonna be like being black anywhere else in the world. Some people are gonna like you, some people are not gonna like you. Some Koreans are gonna be racist, some Koreans are going to ask you. I had, for example, my co-teacher watched the news about George Floyd and she asked me how I felt about it and if I was okay, and she was just very disgusted by the fact that black people are still going through this thing, and she wanted to know more about racism in America and racism in South Africa as well. And so there are people who are willing to learn, and I know that as black people we are always fighting or trying to educate other people about our blackness and that our blackness should be appreciated. So the only disclaimer I guess this video is making is that if you come to live abroad in Korea as a black person, you should be aware that you have to take on a role as an educator. You have to take on a role as an educator. I personally think it's just the responsible thing to do. It's your responsibility. But I understand that the ramifications of that are very exhausting for your mental health and your wellness as well. So yeah. But overall, yeah, that's kind of just what I had to say. But yeah, if you have any questions about what it's like being black in Korea, please leave a comment down below. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that you know when I'm posting, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.